This video will demonstrate how to administer the shape, texture, identification test to a patient. The video is based on the original instruction manual written by Brigitte Rosen. Before starting the test, please read the instructions carefully. When testing the patient, always start with the uninjured hand. Always start with the disc containing the biggest shapes and the dots that are the furthest apart. Continue with the smaller shapes and the dots that are closer together. Always make sure that the test is performed in the same way, that is in the same order, and with the same instructions, in order to ensure standardization. Read the instructions aloud to the patient. About the scoring, maximum 2 points are awarded per disc. 1 point is awarded for 3 correctly identified shapes, and 1 point is awarded for 3 correctly identified textures. 0 points are given for only 1 or 2 correct identifications. Maximum score for the complete test is 6 points. If the score is 1, which means 3 correct identifications, move on to the next level of difficulty. If the score is 0, do not proceed to the next level of difficulty with this hand, but continue with the other one. The scoring procedure is identical with shapes and textures. The following material is required to carry out the test: a shape texture identification test, a test scoring form, a screen, and the STI instruction manual. Starting the test. The patient has a median nerve problem, therefore the index finger is tested. Today, we are going to do a test to measure the sensibility in your injured left hand. This test is called the shape texture identification test. Let's take it out of its container and show it to you. Let's take it apart to show you the different components of the test. If you look at the test, you see different shapes: square, round, and hexagonal, and different textures, or dots, spaced apart more or less. There are 3 discs, each with a different level of difficulty. On each disc there will always be one of each, whether shapes or textures. Each shape or texture will be presented to you in a random manner. There is no time limit. Take as much time as you need. You are only allowed to use your index finger. And you are not allowed to use your fingernail. Each item will be presented to you once only. I will tell you the results when you have completed the test. When you think you have identified the item, tell me A, B, C, D, E, or F. Or you can also point at the item on the template. Let's start with the 3 different shapes. They look like this. There is one of each shape on the disc. Also, don't forget that you can take as much time as you want. Let's place the occlusive screen in front of you, so that you cannot see the disc while you are performing the test. The template disc will remain close to you at all time. Let's start with your uninjured hand. Here is the first one. Here is the second one. And here is the third one. Let's continue now with your injured hand. Here is the first one. Here is the second one. And here is the third and last one. After testing both the uninjured and injured hand with the largest shapes, the test score form looks like this. For both hands, the 3 shapes were identified correctly. Therefore, the score is 1 for each hand, and the testing can continue with the smaller shapes. If for the injured hand the score had been 0, you would only continue to test with the uninjured hand. The same procedure is repeated with the second disc, the one with the 8mm sized shapes. Again, begin with the uninjured hand, and continue with the injured hand. Finally, repeat the procedure with the third disc, the one with the smallest 5mm sized shapes. Once you have completed the test with the shapes, move to the textures. To keep the duration of this video as short as possible, we will also only show how the test is administered with the disc, with the largest spacing of the textures, which is 15mm. The procedure is identical with the next 2 discs, which is the disc with 8mm, and the one with 4mm spacing. Now let's go to 3 different textures. There are 1, 2, or 3 dots in a row. You are supposed to move your fingertip along the track. Let me show you how that will look on the disc. Don't forget that you are not allowed to use your nail, and that you can take as much time as you want. Let's start with your uninjured hand. Here is the first one. Here is the second one. And here is the third and final one. After testing with the textures spaced 15mm apart with both hands, the score sheet looks like this. The identifications were correct for both hands, so there is 1 point for each. In this example, continue with the next disc, the one with the 8mm spaced textures. Again, if any of the 2 scores had been 0 because of a false identification, you would not continue with that hand. Complete the testing with the disc with the smallest spacing of the textures.